Hello, everyone. Melanie here with CGL Recruiting. I want to throw out a number to you, 2.9 billion. That is the size of the contract that SpaceX just got awarded to them from NASA. $2.9 billion. Now, I know there are already lots of you that would love to work at SpaceX. I know a lot of you would just like to work for any of the companies that Elon Musk is involved with. We did a video on how to apply and get a job with Tesla. And today, we did one for Neuralink too. But today, we're going to be talking about SpaceX. Now, if you don't know what our team does to get the data for these videos, we go off and we look all through their job posting site. We look at the sites that say who's applied for what. We look through the hundreds of job descriptions trying to pull out the best data for you so you can be as productive as possible with your job search goal of working for, in this case, SpaceX. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing that now. Feel free to follow me and CGL Recruiting on LinkedIn, as well as on all of our other social media platforms. But let's take a look at SpaceX and the best way for you to be able to join them. Now, I do want to tell you, when we're looking at SpaceX, remember that these positions that I'm going to share with you, we did all this research and kind of finished it off a couple of days before they actually got announced that they were awarded this $2.9 billion contract. So everything you're going to see and the crazy number of positions that are already open are before they start staffing up for this huge next leap that they're about to take. You want to get in with SpaceX, this is the time to do it. Make sure you stay all the way to the end of the video because I'm even going to show you what past people that have applied and been hired by SpaceX, how they actually got in, which method proved to be most fruitful for them. Okay, so let's talk about all these roles at SpaceX. I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see it. There are currently, and remember, this is pre-doing the contract, there were 677 positions open on the SpaceX website that we looked at. Now, it's a little weird because there's 848 positions available on SpaceX's LinkedIn page. So somehow they are a little bit out of sync. What makes this even a little bit more weird is when you go on the LinkedIn site and you're trying to actually apply for one of the SpaceX positions, it brings you back through to their website. So a little bit of a disconnect there on the system, but either way, they are going to pull you back to their primary system when you are having to actually go through and apply. So let's talk more about what are the different role types that they have. Well, they do have an area for regular employee positions and then for intern roles. And they have interns and what they call associate engineers. For the intern roles, you're only going to see 2 postings available. Don't panic. They are more global postings so as many interns as they're going to hire, they're taking them from that one section. So it doesn't mean they're only hiring 2 interns. It's just they only have 2 that they're keeping kind of evergreen, it appears, out there on their website. Now, there were 38 temporary roles when we were out there and looking at it. Most of the roles out there are full-time, though. There were 409 of them were engineers. So a huge amount of these positions are definitely skewed. Let me make this a little bigger for you. Skewed to the engineers. So if you are an engineer, this is definitely your chance to go off and get with SpaceX. Now, when we're looking at the job postings themselves, it is not an easy system. So one thing I do want to make sure you know, when you go to the SpaceX website, go to the very top right of the website, and you're going to see 3 bars. When you click on that, that is where you can get to the career section. Not very easy to get to. You're not very just flashing it in your face. I guess if you're good enough to work for SpaceX, you should be good enough to be able to find it. What is not great about their system, the jobs are not listed alphabetically. And in fact, there is no way for you to sort them alphabetically on there, which does make it very, very difficult in order to get through all of the different jobs that are there. Now, they do have ones, like I said, that are full-time, temporary, or intern, and they are listed by departments. Now, okay, that could sound like a good idea if they had departments that were like engineering, manufacturing. They don't. That's not how their departments run. And I'm going to really actually show you full screen on this. These are the different departments that are out there for SpaceX. And you can see the overlap is actually absolutely huge. Like even under launch, right? There's launch engineering, launch technicians, and trade skills. Well, let's say that you are an engineer and you're interested and working for SpaceX, you have to look into multiple departments in order to see if the position matches you. Even though you see it's got manufacturing and it has manufacturing production engineering, under manufacturing and production operation and manufacturing production leadership, there are still positions available that are engineers. So not a great system here. Come on, Elon. Come on, team at SpaceX. You could make this part a lot easier on candidates. Now, you do have the option to be able to just search and type in a title and search. What I don't love about that is if you don't search right, then you may miss some positions that you would actually be interested in. So if you do use that search bar at the top, make sure don't type in mechanical engineer, type in engineer. Don't type in accounting manager, type in accounting and see what comes up so they don't have it titled something a little different and you end up losing out on positions that you really would have loved to apply for. Okay, let's keep going with SpaceX. Now, they do have a huge variety of locations that are available to you. And from the positions when we looked, there was something very odd. We even saw 3 positions in Asia. Now, what makes that so hard or so odd? We'll talk a little bit about ITAR and how it comes into play with a company like SpaceX. But you'll see for the other positions, there were only 7 that were actually listed as flexible. It was very clearly stated on almost all of the other positions that you had to be in the location of the position or willing to actually relocate to that location. And you can see there's not a whole lot of states to choose from here, right? It's Texas, California, Florida, or Washington. Now, I know everybody is wondering, now that he has moved operations for Tesla so much to Austin, Texas, what's going to happen with SpaceX? Is he going to be moving out of California and moving that to Texas as well, closer to NASA here, or to Florida? Time will only tell. If you're one of those people that watches his tweets, though, he has been doing some pretty awesome tweets about Austin, Texas, and how much he is really loving it there. I would not be surprised if we saw something moving from California to Texas for SpaceX the same way that Tesla did. Okay, let's keep going and looking at the next information that we did pull on this, and that is in the educational requirements. Now, in all of the other companies, in Neuralink and Tesla, when we look at how they approach education, they are looking for the best of the best. They will be asking for huge advanced level degrees, PhDs, for roles that normally don't necessarily require them. That is not the case with Tesla and with Neuralink. SpaceX was a little different. It was very, very open comparatively on when it was asking for an engineer. It didn't say that you had to have a degree in mechanical engineering only. It gave a list of different ones that were available. So it appears that SpaceX is a lot more open to the variety or diversity of degrees as opposed to what we saw with the others. Now, this can be really helpful because I know some people who are falling out of the systems for Tesla and for Neuralink because they didn't have an exact degree, even though they may have had great experience. So looks good for you for SpaceX. Let's look a little closer at some of these other things. There were not as many requests on job descriptions for master's degrees. This is also a change from Tesla and a change also from what we saw with Neuralink, though they did still have in several places looking at that GPA of 3.5 or higher. I'm not surprised at all by this. They are looking for the best of the best. And I will tell you, on many of the roles, the majority of the applicants did have an advanced degree. Now, what are we talking about for that? We went off and looked at the applicants that are applying to some of those different positions. And in almost every position, over half had, even though it may have only requested a bachelor's degree, had either a master's or a PhD degree. So even though SpaceX may not be requiring it, that is what we're seeing of the quality and caliber of candidates that are applying. So if you're still in school and you want to join SpaceX, I would be looking pretty seriously at some kind of advanced degree, because I think it is going to be what you're needing to do to really compete against some of the candidates that are in there, unless you have some great niche or some great other thing that sets you apart from the others. Okay, let's keep going on. So when we looked further at it, there were several required questions when you get to the job application process. Now, this is where you're actually filling in the data on the system in order to apply for the role, right? So they're, of course, requiring things like your basic contact data. They want you to upload your resume. They want to know if you have ever worked for SpaceX as an intern, as a temporary, even for a vendor, how many years of professional work experience you have. They want you to certify that you meet all the basic qualifications. They do ask you about that location. It is important to them that you have actually in that city or willing to relocate. And then, of course, they want to know, how did you hear about them and your citizenship status? Well, then from there, what we saw is a whole list of optional questions. Now, what were on the optional questions? Now, the first one, they give you an option, and it's not really a question, but there's a field for it, is cover letter. And I highly recommend you do a cover letter. You need to do everything you can to position yourself as much as you can when you're joining a top-level company like SpaceX. If you're not sure how to do a cover letter, we have a video that covers that. Please go off and watch it. Your cover letter, a lot of times, can make the difference. Now, some of the other things that were different, but I'm not surprised, by an Elon Musk company, were things like GPA, SAT score, ACT score, GRE score, or GMAT score. It's not a required field, but they give you a place and would like you to enter in each of those that you have taken with your best score. Is that going to make a difference? Yep. If they're wanting to see it, you know it's something that's important to them. And we're going to talk a little bit about something that we found hidden in one of the job descriptions that really ties back to this. So then, of course, it does ask if you have any kind of security clearances. There is an opportunity to attach your LinkedIn profile. Please, 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 when you're given this opportunity, attach your LinkedIn profile. There's so much more data there. And then it does give you a space for an additional link. Now, when you're applying for a company like SpaceX, you want to make sure that you have a portfolio. I don't care what role you're in. You need some kind of portfolio. If you are in design, you want some design things in there. If you're an design engineer, past engineering designs you've done, whatever you can, you need some sort of portfolio. And they are giving you a spot to put in the link to that portfolio. Now, let's go on to ITAR, because I know that they do ask that citizenship question. And so for a lot of you that are international candidates that may be interested in joining a company like SpaceX, it is difficult, and it's not SpaceX's fault. There was a really good video on YouTube that Elon had answered this question once for somebody that had come to some kind of college thing and said, why, you are going to be doing this and say you want to do Mars for the world. What are you doing and not hiring an international people from all over the world? And his response is, it's not that I don't want to, it's that I can't. In the US, we do have ITAR, which is the International Traffic in Arms Regulations. And I have, the quote up on the screen now for you that's from their site, but pretty much what it says is anything that has like rockets, it's something that can be seen as something that's a military or a defense could utilize it. And so because of that, it's controlled that you have to be a US citizen in order to work on those projects, which is why I was a little surprised that there were 3 roles in Asia when we looked at their website. Now, I don't know, honestly, if those positions are going to be held under ITAR regulations or not. I believe they still would be, but that's something that we probably should get somebody else's expertise on, that understands ITAR better. If you know that, the answer to that, please put it in the comments down below, because I'm even curious. For those 3 that are in Asia, is that a way to get around the ITAR, that's somebody who wants to join from Asia, or would that still be a requirement? I'd love for somebody to answer that down below. Okay, let's keep going, because we got some great information to help you get in. So the key skills that they were looking for, and we've got this from looking at all of the job descriptions and pulling out the key skills that we saw repeated again and again and again. And some of those were Lean Six Sigma, ISO, advanced Excel modeling, experience with ERP systems, your enterprise resource planning software like SAP and Oracle. They also always, this is for all of his companies, SQL, C++, and Python are always there, always there. And then on the more softer competencies, we saw that ability to innovate and work in a fast-paced environment, and the ability to work in a team, as well as the ability to work independent, depending on what the needs of that particular position are. Now, there were some other consistent themes that we did see looking at both the job descriptions and the feedback that we saw from people that worked there. And it was, get ready for some overtime, because if you are wanting a position that you're only going to be doing a 40-hour work week, SpaceX, just like all of the rest of Elon's companies, is not the one for you. This one was a little different in that it did have a lot of information there about saying, be ready to travel. And I'm sure that's because it depends, where are they going to be launching at that point in time? Is it going to be going out of Texas? Is it going to be going out of Florida? What's going on? So you have to, if you're going to work for SpaceX, it appears, be really willing to pick up your stuff and go and work wherever the work needs to be done at that point in time. Now, what are they looking for? Okay, so here was something very interesting that we found. One of the things we always do when we're doing a video like this and looking at the different companies is we look at the job descriptions for HR and the recruiters, because you usually get little snippets in there that tells you what they're wanting from the people that they're hiring for all the rest of the positions. And lo and behold, on one of the technical recruiter job descriptions, there was this. And I quote this, it's direct from the job description: the ability to distinguish between the top 50% and the top 5% of talent within their respective fields. That is who they are targeting, that they want to be working at SpaceX, not the top 50%, the top 5%. So now that you know that, if you want to catch their attention and you're doing any, which you should be doing, metrics on your resume and on your cover letter and all that, any that you can do that show that you are the top in your field is going to catch the attention of these recruiters. It's something that they are being held to. So make sure you're making it really noticeable that, you won this, you were valedictorian of your class, or you graduated in the top 2%, or whatever else it was, to get you into that top 5% that the recruiters are going to be looked at and judged on. Now, before we go, there's this other great bit of information that I want to share with you, and that is the best way to apply. So for those of you that don't know, there are some softwares or some systems that have feedback back from applicants. And they say, okay, for those of you got a job successfully, what was the best way for you to apply in? And so we found one that had the best way for SpaceX. And here's what it said. 57% of the people that applied through and got jobs with SpaceX did it by applying online. That means applying direct on their website or through their LinkedIn, through a job posting that they had. 57%. I was shocked by this number. I thought this was going to be much higher for a company like SpaceX, which has a smaller population. There are not as many aerospace focused people that are going to be able to fill some of these jobs. And for that to be 57%, that tells you, don't just try to network your way into here. You do want to apply online for these jobs. Now, the other percentages that were big, 18% worked through a recruiter, 12% did go through an employee referral. That is still a sizable number. So definitely something to still consider. And then 7% came through campus recruiting. So for those of you that are still in school, If not Tesla, if SpaceX comes to your school, take the time, go impress them. Show them that you are in the top 5% of the people in your field. And when you graduate, you will be a great employee for them. All right. I hope that this information was very helpful for you and gives you a leg up in getting in with SpaceX. $2.9 billion. That's about to be explosive, crazy growth. You want to work for SpaceX? The time is now. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.